Resourceful Designer, episode 47, Bartering Your Graphic Design Services.
Welcome to the Resourceful Designer Podcast, offering solutions to streamline your graphic and web design business so you can get back to designing. And now, your host. His computer desktop is as messy as his physical desktop, Mark DeCote.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm glad you can join me today, because I think this will be a very exciting episode as I discuss how bartering may be a better option than charging money for your services. But before I get to that, I just want to thank you for subscribing to the podcast. Whether it's through iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or Google Play Music, subscribing to the podcast is the easiest way to make sure you don't miss any episodes because they're automatically downloaded to your computer, your mobile phone, your tablet, whichever you use for listening. By subscribing, you never miss anything. And it shows a devotion and loyalty to the podcast. So thank you very much for your subscription. And if you want to share the podcast with friends and other designers who you think might benefit from the show, simply send them to resourcefuldesigner.com/subscribe, where they can subscribe on the platform of their choice as well. Now, wow, what a busy week it's been for me. A really good kind of busy. I had a website to do for a fellow podcaster, and he had some delays, but he launched his podcast this past week. And there was a lot of last minute things, getting things ready, making sure the podcast feed was working properly on the website, and so many other things. But I managed to get it done and get it out, and the response I've been getting myself, not to mention the response that this podcaster has been getting, but the response that I was getting from the design is just incredible. And I've already received a bunch of requests for quotes for redesigning websites for other podcasters or designing websites. And I've been really surprised by the amount of feedback that I've received just from that one website I designed. But it's not just that. I've been doing a lot of stuff this week. I did have a consulting call. I have one client that I still do consulting. And when I say consulting, it's she needs me to go over there from time to time and just remind her how her Mac works, helping her do some troubleshooting. She always, every time I go over there, she has a legal pad next to her computer with a whole bunch of questions she's written down for me. Little things that she just doesn't remember. So I usually have maybe every 3 or 4 months, she'll ask me to come over and just refresh her. So I did that this week. She's a really nice elderly lady, and I love helping her out. But she's the only one. I used to do consulting, and back in the day, especially when I was working at the print shop, when I was the systems manager, and it was my job to maintain all the computers, and I was really into that sort of thing. I used to do consulting for a lot of different companies and go around and help them, especially the Macs, because back then there wasn't a lot of people servicing Macintoshes. Not that they needed a lot of service, but whenever there was, I was the go-to person in town. Well, slowly over the years, I've kind of given that up. It's not really worth my time to go over to somebody's place and do that when I can make just as much money sitting at home designing on my own computer. But this one lady, I've been doing it for years and years, so I keep her on as my one consulting client. And when I say consulting, I do design consulting with people, but I'm just talking about Macintosh servicing. But I was over at her place this week, and I worked on her computer, and then back at home, I did some logos. I've got a really nice 70th anniversary logo for a local Highland Games. It's an event I've been doing their work for years and years, and now it's going to be their 70th anniversary, and they've asked me to design a new logo for them, so that's very exciting. As well as finishing off a few websites and a couple of brochures I'm working on, and one t-shirt design that I was asked to start on. So, as I said, it's been a really busy week, really enjoying it, and I can't wait to get back to working on some of this stuff. But I thought I'd take a little bit of time off and record this podcast episode for you, because I've been really thinking about this one for a while, about bartering your design services. And I thought now's the time. But before we get to that, as always, I do have a resource of the week to share with you. Now, this is a resource I've shared in the past, but I wanted to bring it up again, and it's ScreenFlow. Now, ScreenFlow is a screen recorder. It's made to capture the video of your computer screen, and it's great for making presentations and tutorials and all sorts of stuff. But let me tell you how I use it. And the reason I brought this up is I just used it this week. That website for that podcaster I told you about, Well, he's familiar with WordPress, and he has somebody that helps him write his show notes for his podcast episodes and the blog posts. He has somebody else that helps him, and that person is familiar with WordPress as well. But I was designing a new website for him, and I used some plugins and some features that they weren't familiar with. So they said, Mark, you're going to have to show us how to do this because we're not quite sure exactly what we're supposed to do. It's not as simple as just clicking new post, typing up, and publish. So instead of typing up all my instructions or getting on a Skype call and trying to walk them through it, all I did was I launched ScreenFlow, waited for the countdown, 3, 2, 1, and then I knew it was recording, and I walked them through step by step. They already knew how to log into their WordPress backend, so I didn't have to show them that. But once there, I showed them you can click on New Post, and now when the post opens up, you're going to have to click on these buttons and you're going to have to put this information in here. This is new. You've never seen this before. This is how you do this. You have to fill in these. Here's the checkboxes you can check off, and depending on what your topic is and your categories and all that stuff. So I did it was about a 10-minute video of walking them through the process of creating a blog post or a podcast show notes page for this website. And I just thought how easy that was. It took me 10 minutes to do. It didn't have to be perfect. I mean, I flubbed my words and I goofed and I just laughed it off and told them, oops, I made a mistake here, do this instead. And then I sent it off to them. And both of them wrote me back saying, this is great. Now we have something that we can follow. If we have any questions, if we forget from one week to the next, we can have something to go back on. And it's not reading written instructions that could be confusing. I showed them, they watched my cursor go across the screen, telling them in what order you should do things. You always do this, then this, then this, then this. And they were just telling me how simple and easy and grateful they were for that video. And I've done this many times with clients, especially with WordPress or just website clients in general. It is so much easier to just record a short 5-10 minute video, send it off to them, and then you never have to worry about them asking about that thing again because they forgot. The video is always there for them to access. Not to mention, it makes you look really good as a designer because this is a service they probably weren't thinking they would get. And they think, wow, like what a value that is being given to me. And then when it comes time to recommend somebody else and they say, yeah, you can get your website designed by so-and-so, or you can use Mark to do your website. Listen to what he did. Not only did he design the website, he actually created a video walkthrough showing me exactly how to go in and use stuff. So I know exactly what I have to do now because of the video. And I could have that video. I could look at it at any time and it's great. So because of that, and because of using it again this week, I thought I would use ScreenFlow as my resource. Because even if you don't use it to create tutorials or online things or anything like that, if you just use it for what I'm saying I use it for, you will easily make back the cost of the software in no time. Just the savings on not having to go in and explain and teach people how to do things is well worth it. Now, I do have an affiliate link if you are interested in purchasing ScreenFlow. Simply visit resourcefuldesigner.com/ScreenFlow, all one word, and that'll take you there. And speaking of affiliate links, I just want to thank everybody who does use my affiliate links. I don't make a lot of commission on these things, but every dollar helps out, covers the cost of this podcast. I'm taking time away from my graphic design job where I could be earning money designing stuff. I take time out of my day to record the podcast, edit the podcast, get it all ready. This takes a few hours out of my day that I could be earning money. So any little bit I get through the affiliate links is much appreciated. So thank you if you have used my affiliate links in the past. And you can always check the resources page on resourcefuldesigner.com, which lists some of my other affiliates. And I really do have to work on that page because there's some others that I have that are not on there. And if there's anything you can suggest or recommend, drop me a note. Just visit my feedback page and send me a note about something that you think should be added to the resource page. And remember, if you forget any of these links that I mentioned during the episode, you can always visit resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 47, and all the links will be in the show notes there. And that's the same for any episode. Anytime I mention an episode, or if there's a past episode, it's just resourcefuldesigner.com/episode and then the number, which makes it really easy to get to. And in case you're wondering, I accomplished that with the PrettyLink Pro plugin. And I do recommend the Pro version as opposed to the free version, PrettyLink Lite. The Pro does offer you some really interesting features, so it's well worth paying the yearly fee for it. And now, bartering your graphic design services. Now, in case you're not familiar with the word bartering, it's the verb to barter. According to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, barter means to trade or exchange commodities, such as products or services, for other things instead of for money. Have you ever looked in a classified ad online or in a newspaper and you see maybe somebody has a boat and they're willing to trade it for a car? And you think, wow, that's really strange. Somebody has a boat and they're saying they'll trade it for a car. Well, that's bartering. There's always the possibility that somebody looking through those classified ads might have a car sitting in their yard that they're not really using. And then when they see that, they'll go, you know what? I would love to have a boat. And I've got this car I'm not using. Why don't I trade it for the boat? And then these two people will get together. They'll trade the car for the boat. And they've just bartered with each other. That's what the whole thing is about, is trading or exchanging commodities. Whether it's products or services, you trade one thing for the other with no money exchanging hands. Now, it's not to say that bartering can't include money. Like maybe the person said, I'll trade you a boat plus $1,000 for a car or vice versa. But it's the bartering part of it that I'm talking about today. Now, the benefits of bartering are that both sides usually feel like they're getting the better deal out of this. Think of the car for the boat. The person that had the car thinks, wow, I'm getting a better deal because I wasn't using this car anyways. It's just sitting there. It's old. It's starting to rust. And I don't even drive it anymore. But wow, I can get a boat. So why don't I get rid of this car and get this boat that I've always wanted a boat? So wow, what a great deal for me. And yet the person getting rid of the boat is thinking, I've got this boat and I hate being on the water. I don't use it anymore. It sits in my yard here, but I really need a car to get around town. So to them, they're getting the better part of the deal because they have no use for the boat, but they really need the car. So when they trade, both people think they're getting the better part of the deal. So when it comes to bartering, that's what you have to look for. The idea is to trade for something that you find more valuable than what you are offering. Now, you may be asking, well, Mark, why don't I just get paid money, cold hard cash for my services, and then take that money and go buy what I want? Well, the reason I'm saying that bartering could actually be better than charging money is because bartering has nothing to do with the actual value of an item. It has to do with the perceived value. Again, using the car and the boat example, the person that had the car thought the boat was much more valuable than the car that they had sitting in their yard, and they were willing to trade, just like the person that had the boat, in their mind's eye, the car was much more valuable to them than the boat. We're not talking dollar figures. If you actually assess the two, who knows? Maybe the car was worth more, maybe the boat was worth more. But in the eye of the two people making the trade, the item they were receiving had a perceived higher value than the item they were giving away. And this perceived value can turn out to be very, very powerful in the trades. Let me give you an example. Have you ever heard of Kyle McDonald? He's a Canadian blogger who back in 2005 gained a little bit of fame when he traded a red paperclip, one of those little curly pieces of metal that you use to hold pieces of paper together. He traded a red paperclip for a 2-story house. Now, he didn't just go up to somebody and say, here, I like your house, here's a paperclip. He made 14 trades over the course of 1 year with no money changing hands. And at the end of the 1 year, he had a house. So how did he do this? Well, he started off with a red paperclip and he traded to somebody for a pen in the shape of a fish. It was a novelty pen, and that person thought, I don't use this pen. So they traded it for a red paperclip. They thought, I'm getting a deal. I'll be able to use the paperclip where I don't use that pen. Now, he then took this fish-shaped pen and he found somebody and traded it for a hand-sculpted doorknob. Now, I saw the photo of the doorknob. In my opinion, it wasn't a very good-looking doorknob. But this person that had it, who probably didn't want to use it, thought, you know what? This is a funny-looking pen. Sure, I'll trade you this doorknob that I'm not using for a pen. Now, he then took that doorknob and he traded it to somebody else for a Coleman camp stove with fuel. That's one of those green camp stoves that you see people, the camp stove, you bring it camping. Well, he traded this doorknob to somebody for a camp stove. Then he in turn took that camp stove and he bartered with somebody for a Honda generator. Again, somebody had a generator they weren't using and thought, I could really use a camp stove. And he had a camp stove that he didn't really need and was thinking, you know what? I think this generator is worth more than a camp stove, so let's make this trade. So now Kyle had this Honda generator. And what he did was he found somebody that wanted a generator and in exchange traded a quote unquote instant party. And this instant party was actually an empty keg of beer. And if you're not familiar with that means, it's like a barrel that you put beer in, including an IOU that the person would fill that keg up with any brand of beer you wanted. And they also threw in a neon Budweiser sign. And Budweiser is a popular beer in North America. So that was the quote unquote instant party. So now Kyle had this instant party that he didn't really need and he wanted to trade it. And he found somebody in Quebec that had an old Skidoo they weren't using, a Skidoo snowmobile. And they were willing to make this trade. Now this one gets a little bit interesting because now he had this snowmobile and he found somebody that was interested in the snowmobile if they would trade for a trip for two to Yack, British Columbia in Canada. Now, I have no idea where Yack, British Columbia is. I didn't look it up, but they had a trip for two people to Yack and they were willing to exchange it for this snowmobile. But Kyle had a problem that he had to get the snowmobile to this person, and I forget where they were. He had to move the snowmobile there and he wasn't sure what to do. But then, luck be told, he got a little bit of publicity. As he was doing this, of course, he was getting a little bit of publicity and he ended up being on the front page of a newspaper in Quebec. And he just so happens to be wearing a t-shirt for a moving company. And the moving company was so thrilled that he was wearing one of their t-shirt, no idea why or where he got the t-shirt, but they offered him an old box truck that they didn't use anymore in exchange for the two-person trip to Yack, BC. So now Kyle, that was kind of like a three-way trade because now he had a Skidoo that he was trading for this trip, but he had to get the Skidoo to the person. And then this moving company with this box truck said, we'll take the trip. Here's a box truck. You can use it to move the Skidoo. So he was able to do that. So at the end of this was like a triple trade. At the end of this, he had a box truck. He ended up trading this box truck to a company in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, which offered a recording contract. Now, Kyle is not a singer, but to a singer, getting a recording contract is huge. And here's a company that's offering a recording contract to anybody. They'll record, produce, create a demo or whatever. And this is something that for a singer is extremely valuable. So Kyle ended up trading this recording contract to a woman from Phoenix, Arizona, in exchange for 1 year rent in the duplex. She rented one half of a duplex. She was willing to give 1 year's free rent so somebody can go live in her half of the duplex for 1 full year in exchange for this recording contract. Now, this is not the same thing as owning a house, which is what Kyle set out to begin with. He wanted to have a house. Now, he had 1 year of free rent in a house, but it's not the same thing. Now, in a funny bit to the story here, as I mentioned, it was a duplex, which means there was two people living in it. Well, the other person living in the other half said, well, this isn't fair. This person's going to live for an entire year without rent. I want to live for a year without rent. Now, that woman just so happened to work at a restaurant owned by the rock singer Alice Cooper. So she went to her boss and said, hey, can you help me out? I'm trying to get a year of free rent. And Alice Cooper gladly helped out his employee by saying, I'll offer an afternoon with me to do anything that the person wants, an entire afternoon spent with me in exchange for the 1 year rent. So Kyle took them up on that offer and gave the apartment. Now the funny thing is the woman who was in the duplex had to move all her stuff from her part of the duplex to the other half of the duplex, but she got a full year's rent-free living there. And Kyle now had an afternoon with Alice Cooper. But of course, this wasn't his ultimate goal. Now, he ended up trading this to a really big Alice Cooper fan for a Kiss, the rock band Kiss, a Kiss motorized snow globe. Now, at this point, you're thinking, okay, he went backwards here. An afternoon with Alice Cooper is worth way more than a motorized Kiss snow globe. But Kyle was thinking, you know what? There might be an opportunity with this, and he managed to find it. He found somebody who is arguably the world's biggest collector of snow globes. And it just so happened this person did not have a KISS snow globe. So Kyle contacted them and said, hey, I have this. What would you be willing to exchange for it? And it just so happened that this person, who is maybe the biggest collector of snow globes in the world, is also a movie producer. So in exchange for the snow globe, he offered Kyle a speaking role in a movie that he was producing, which is huge. I mean, imagine how many actors are out there trying to break in to get anything. And here, all he did was he had a snow globe and he traded it in for a speaking part, not just a part, but a speaking part in a movie. Now, I mentioned to an actor or actress, somebody who's trying to get in and break into the industry, this is huge. Now you can put a movie on your resume. You've actually been hired for something. And this was a paid part. Like, it wasn't just you get there and we'll put you in. This was a paid part. You would be paid for your part in the movie. You would have lodging and food and I think your return airfare to wherever you're from. Everything was paid for, and you would be in the movie with a credit in the movie. And then Kyle got what he wanted. Someone from Saskatchewan, Canada, had a 2-story farmhouse, and this person was trying to break into the movie industry, was willing to trade their farmhouse for this movie role. So almost a full year to the day. I think he was like a week or two short from being a full year since he started with the red paperclip. Kyle made his 14th trade and was now the owner of a 2-story farmhouse in Saskatchewan, Canada. So that just goes to show you the power of bartering and how one thing can have a perceived value over the other and keep moving up, moving up. He went from a red paperclip, and in less than a year, he had traded that one paperclip, and through the course of 14 trades, he now owned a 2-story house. Now, if you want to know the full story, he goes into detail about all this. I'll include a link in the show notes to the actual story on how he went about this. And back in 2005, he became really popular. He did all the news circuits after this had gone through. Everybody interviewed him, all the big news outlets. And it kind of spread around the world. There was stuff. I know he traveled through the UK and through Asia talking about what he had done. So it really, really caught the media by storm. But again, I just wanted to illustrate the power of bartering. So how does this relate to your graphic design business? Because you're not starting with a paperclip and trying to get a house. You're just trying to make a decent living and getting ahead in your business. So again, it all comes down to perceived value. You trade your time and your skills, your design skills, for something of value in return. And as I mentioned earlier, the whole idea is that both people have to think that they're getting the better deal because of the whole cost value of the item they're trading. Like, take, for example, you have a coffee shop that you go to. I'm not a coffee drinker, but I know a lot of designers are big coffee drinkers. So say you're a coffee drinker and you go and you buy your coffee from the same coffee shop every day. Now, what happens if you go to the owner and you say, hey, listen, I'll design a brand new menu for you. In exchange, I want 1 free coffee a day for a full year. Now, the owner of the shop is thinking, okay, I can get a brand new menu design. Maybe they've looked into this before and they're thinking, well, a brand new menu will cost me a couple of $100s to get a brand new menu. And then they start calculating, okay, coffee, the cup cost me 5 cents. Maybe coffee, what fills the cup? It doesn't matter what you're paying for it. The store owner, the coffee shop owner, is probably only paying about 20 cents worth of coffee, if that much. So let's say, just for this example, a cup of coffee costs the shop, the owner, 25 cents. If you do the math and you say, okay, 365 days a year, maybe they're closed on Christmas, we'll give them that one. That works out to $91 for a year. If he gave you 1 coffee every day, it would cost him $91. But in return, he's getting $300-400 worth of design service. So he's thinking, wow, that's a no-brainer. I'll give this person 1 coffee per day. And if the person doesn't show up that day, they lose that coffee. So bonus for him. But he's going to willingly give them 1 coffee per day in exchange for a menu design. And he's thinking, wow, I just made a killing on that deal. Now, from your point of view, you were going to go buy a coffee anyways. So now you're looking at, I don't know, maybe you're going to pay, I honestly don't know what a coffee costs, but let's say it's $1.50 at this place. You were going to willingly go in every day, every morning, and buy your coffee for $1.50. If you did that every day for an entire year, that would cost you $546. But to design the menu, maybe you're thinking it's not a very hard menu. I mean, this isn't a big high-scale restaurant. It's just a little coffee shop. You can design a menu in, say, 4 hours. And if your design rates, let's say you charge $75 an hour, 4 hours of work, that's $300. So if you design this menu and you were paid cash, you would get $300 back. But now you're getting a coffee a day for an entire year that you would have spent anyways. And it would have cost you $546. So it's as if you just got $250 worth of coffee for free. So you're thinking 4 hours of my time and I don't have to pay for a coffee for the entire year? What a great deal I'm getting. So now you see that the coffee shop owner is thinking, wow, I've got this amazing deal. And you're thinking, wow, I've got this amazing deal. So you say, yes, let's make the trade. You've just bartered a deal where both of you think that you're the one coming out ahead because of the perceived value. And when you think about it this way, you can get some amazing deals on things. When I first started my business, I remember my friend Jason. He's another designer. We went through school. He was a couple of years behind me at college. And then he did work at the print shop that I worked at only for a short period of time before he moved away. But we've kept in touch over the years. Well, I remember when I was first starting out my business, he was telling me about a client that he had that ran his entire business on the barter system. And Jason designed a whole bunch of stuff for him. First, he said it started off where he did a magazine ad for the guy in exchange for a television and a VCR. And he said that led to him doing a media kit and redesigning their logo. And in exchange, he said he received everything from washer and dryers, leather couch and sofa sets, luggage sets, expensive tools, housewares. He received a riding lawnmower, bunk beds for his kids, snowblowers, garden tools, all sorts of stuff. And it was basically, he would design stuff for this person, and in exchange, he would get some sort of credit, and then he would go in and find whatever he needed, and they would exchange. And he said this was a great relationship they had because this guy was thinking, wow, I'm getting all this design service for this merchandise. And again, this merchandise, it might have a sticker or a price tag of, like, say, a washer. High-end washer, maybe say $1,000. Well, the store didn't pay $1,000 for it. The store might have paid $800, $700, maybe even $600 for it. So to the store, if you are charging them $1,000 for your services, and they say, well, why don't I give you this washer instead? To them, they're only paying $600 for your services now. So they just saved a bunch. And then you, on the other hand, you're thinking that, yeah, I would charge them $1,000. Like, this really works well if you do value-based pricing as opposed to hourly. Imagine if you were doing value-based pricing and you say, I'm going to design a logo for $1,000, and the logo only takes you 3 hours to design. And then that $1,000 in exchange, they give you a brand new washing machine. You're going to think, wow, I just worked 3 hours and I got a $1,000 washing machine out of this. What a great deal. It's a great deal for both of you. And I remember hearing Jason's story when I first started, and that really got my mind going. Now, shortly after that, I was approached by somebody to design a website for them. They were somebody, we were both in a club. We were both on the board of directors for Habitat for Humanity. Back then I was on the board of directors, and he was on the board as well. Now, this guy was a woodworker, and he was getting into wood turning, where you put the wood on a lathe and you make bowls and lamps, and he does all sorts of stuff. Well, he wanted a website where he can sell his wares. But he told me he didn't have the money. When I gave him a quote of how much the website would cost, he says, I really don't have the money for this. But he says, I do have the time. Can I build you something? And I was thinking, I had just started, and I had a desk that I had actually purchased off my old print shop. When they updated some stuff, I had bought a desk for like $40. And it was a cheap, flimsy thing, but it got me by. And then this guy came along and he said he needed a website and he was willing to build me a desk. So we sat down and we discussed the whole thing. And I ended up designing my desk, the desk that I currently have right now. And the deal we made was I would buy the wood. He would get the wood. I would have to pay the actual cost. He wouldn't mark anything up. I would pay the actual cost of the wood. But then he would spend the time building the desk for me. And in exchange, I would build him a website. Now, if my desk wasn't so messy, I would actually take a picture of it and include it in the show notes for this. But I've told you before, I'm one of those people that keeps a messy desk, so I'm not going to take a picture. But let me just kind of quickly describe my desk. It's a solid wood, cherry wood desk. It's 7 feet long. It has, where I sit, underneath to my left is a door that opens with 2 sliding drawers, or actually shelves. And it just so happens, although I didn't know it, I was going to be podcasting at the time, the shelves are the perfect size to put my podcast mixer and my other equipment, so I can slide them away and hide them. On my right is a set of drawers that are legal size, not just letter size, but legal size. So I can put file folders in there, legal size file folders. And next to that is another door with a slide out shelf that I can put my printer on. So my printer, when I'm not using it, is slid in and the door is closed. Now on my desk, there's also a hutch that goes up, and I built this to specifications. At the time, I had a 21-inch iMac, but I knew the 27 inches were coming out. So when I designed the desk, I designed it specifically to fit a 27-inch iMac. So I have this hutch, and it has a couple of doors on it and a few shelves. Anyways, really, really nice desk. If I was to go somewhere with the design that I had drawn up of the desk I wanted, and I went somewhere and I said, can you design this desk? I'm sure it would have cost me thousands, $2,000, maybe $3,000 for a custom built solid wood desk. And he did an excellent job. I mean, he routed all the edges, did all sorts of beautiful things. He put some handles on it that I wasn't expecting. Just absolutely gorgeous desk. And all I did was I paid $700 for the wood. And in exchange, I built him a website, and it was something he didn't have the skills, he didn't have the know-how to do, but it's something he really wanted. And in the long run, he thinks he got more value out of it because the website, he was able to sell his wares, and he did really well. Now, unfortunately, he's not doing that anymore, and the website's no longer up, but that was about 10 years ago. And at the time, we both thought we were getting the better deal. Now, of course, my thinking is the website's not there anymore. I'm still using the desk, so I'm the winner of that one. But again, that's just the power of bartering. There's no way I could have ever afforded, especially when I was first starting out, I could never have afforded this desk. Even today, I don't think I would have ever afforded this desk. There's no way I would have spent $3,000 on a desk for my office. But it's still now one of my most proud achievements as a designer was getting this desk built exactly to my specifications. And that was all because of bartering. Now think about it. It is so easy to get things in exchange for your services, especially if you're a parent and you want to put your kids in activities, whether it's sports activities, maybe it's a drama club, a dance class, summer camp, or whatever. You know how much those things cost. Some of them could be quite expensive. Well, instead of paying for your child to go and forking out the money, why don't you approach these organizations and say, I'll design a new recruitment poster for you, or I'll design a new brochure for you to advertise your business in exchange for you letting my son or daughter into the club. And you look at this from both point of views. The club is getting a brand new design on their flyer, their poster, maybe their website, whatever. And all they have to do is include your child, especially if it's a club. If it's something like, say, a piano teacher that you're trying to do this with, that's one-on-one. And then the piano teacher is going to view, okay, I might get a website or a brochure, but then I've got to spend time with this child teaching them. And that's time where I could be making money if I was being paid for this or with a different child. But if it's a group activity, imagine if it's one of these sports camps, like maybe it's a summer camp where they teach kids how to play soccer. And if you're not in North America, I'm talking football. But say there's a camp where people come in and they have experts and they come and they teach kids the fundamentals of the game. Well, maybe they're going to charge, I don't know, $700 for the camp for the summer. And you tell them, hey, instead of me paying you $700 for my child, why don't I design a new poster that you can put up around town advertising this camp to attract more kids? And they're going to say, wow, what a great idea. We really need something to attract more kids and build the camp. So yeah, that's a great value. And all we have to do is include your daughter in the camp or your son in the camp. Well, really, that's a no-brainer because they're going to run the camp. Maybe they're going to have 20 kids in the camp. Well, to them, what's the big deal if they have 21? It's not like it's costing them anything more. Maybe they might have to get a t-shirt if it's one of those things where every kid gets a t-shirt. It's going to cost them the price of a t-shirt to give to this kid. And this kid's going to learn. They're not losing any money over it because they're already running the camp anyways. And then you, in exchange, design a poster for them that maybe it'll take you 2 or 3 hours to design a poster. And in exchange, your son or daughter is now included in this camp that would have cost you hundreds of dollars had you had to pay for it. And you could do this for all sorts of stuff. Your kids your stuff, if you're in a hobby, maybe you're in a club, like maybe you fly model airplanes and there's a model airplane club and they have an annual member fee. Well, maybe you can have them waive the membership fee for you in exchange for you designing a banner that they can put up whenever they're flying their airplanes or that sort of thing. Really, the possibilities are endless. And the power of bartering is really incredible. You heard my story. Kyle McDonald had traded a red paperclip in 14 trades, a red paperclip that you probably can pick up 100 of them for like 50 cents, if not less. A red paperclip, and after 14 trades, he had a 2-story farmhouse. And if that doesn't tell you the value and the benefits of bartering, I don't know what will. Now, just to give you an example, I put out a message in the Resourceful Designer Facebook group, which you really should join, by the way. Visit resourcefuldesigner.com/group, and it'll redirect you there where you can just click the join button. Within a short period of time, I'll let you in, and then you can join in all the fun. We've been having some really, really great conversation there, talking about all sorts of stuff. We've been talking about different areas to get stock photos. We've been talking about the benefits of purchasing templates to base your work on. If you're going to design a brochure, instead of doing it from scratch, getting a template. We've discussed things like whether or not if you're doing, say, multiple projects, like say for a client, if you have to design 3 or 4 different rack cards, do you price each one separately, or is it better to price all 4 as one project? And that sort of stuff. It's all discussion about your graphic design business. We're talking about running the business and the questions that, especially if you're all by yourself, the questions you have that you don't know where to turn to. This Facebook group is the place for you. Now, in the Facebook group, I posted the question. I knew this episode of the podcast was coming up, so I asked in the group, have you guys ever done anything with bartering, and what has been your experience? These are some of the responses I got. Wendy in the group said that she's designed a brochure for a feng shui designer in exchange for that person then coming to her home and rearranging her stuff according to the feng shui method. She said she's also designed logos and flyers in exchange for event tickets. She even did work for a clothing designer in exchange for free clothes. Frederick built a website for his sister and her husband's farm in exchange for fresh meat. He said he has 2 freezers worth of frozen meat. So Frederick is literally working for food. And that's amazing. 2 freezers worth of meat, and he built and maintains a website for them. Again, it just shows you he's getting a huge value. All this meat, because meat is expensive. He's getting all this meat, and all he had to do was build a simple website for his sister's farm. And yet his sister is thinking, we've got all these cows, we butcher all this meat, we can give some to my brother in exchange for something that I can't do. I can't build a website, so now they're getting a value in return, and to them, all it's costing them is a little bit of the meat that they butcher. So great deal. Brian said he designed a website in exchange for a 2-car covered carport. Terry created a memorial video for a friend's mother in exchange for some sewed custom dolls for her daughter. She said these are both things that you couldn't go out and buy in a store, so they're extremely valuable to each of them. Think about it, a memorial video for somebody's mother. It's something that they can't do themselves, and they would have probably paid a lot of money to somebody else to do. And Terry did it in exchange for some dolls that this person who probably sews all the time and loves sewing and would be doing it anyways, made a few custom little dolls for Terry's daughter in exchange for this video. And then Terry is having the joy of presenting these dolls to her daughter, who I'm sure her daughter loves. And all she had to do was put this little video together for her friend. That's the power of bartering. Now, Brian, who reminded me in the Facebook group that bartering is not just something you do with your clients. And he reminded me that you can also do this with your partners or your contractors. And he mentioned how he's updating a copywriter's website in exchange for that copywriter creating better content for his own website. And he's also doing something very similar with a videographer. They're all partners that help each other out and in exchanging and bartering their services. So it doesn't cost them anything, but they're all benefiting from it. Again, thank you, Brian. That's something I hadn't even considered when I was doing up this topic. I hadn't considered the part from our partners and the contractors that we use and how we can barter our services with them. I was focusing solely on bartering just with clients. So do you see the value in bartering? Again, it all comes down to perceived value. If you think what you're getting back in return is worth more than your time and the skills, then it's a great deal for you. And chances are the person you're dealing with is thinking that the skills and the time that you're devoting to them is worth much more than whatever it is that they're giving back to you. So keep that in mind. Sometimes you'll have a client that'll come up and they'll say, I need something done. And then you'll give them a price and they'll go, ooh, I really can't afford that. But then you can start thinking and saying, well, you know what? Does this person have a service or a product or anything that I can use that maybe we can barter instead? I mean, what's the harm in asking? And the best thing about this is if you do get into these deals, it can lead to more work further down the line. If you go back to my coffee shop example at the beginning, if you trade a menu design for a year's worth of coffee, and then 2-3 months down the road, that coffee shop decides to do something, and maybe they want to put some signs out in the window to advertise something, or maybe there's a new brochure coming out and they want a special ad in the brochure, who do you think they're going to turn to when they need something? They've already started a design relationship with you, so they'll come to you whenever they need something. And maybe they'll be willing to pay you at the time, or who knows? Maybe they'll say they'll throw in a Danish with your morning coffee in exchange for a poster or whatever, and more bartering could ensue. But this is just another way of forming a relationship with somebody, and later down the line, it could turn into a viable cash flow. Now, a couple of things to keep in mind is one, yes, bartering is great, but it also doesn't help pay the bills. So it's not a good idea to have bartering arrangements with every one of your clients. You do need some money coming in to sustain your business. And whenever I do it, I try to make a habit of always just bartering my services. If somebody wants a design and something printed, I will tell them, I will design it. Well, let's barter that service, my time and my skills. But the actual printing, you'll pay for the printing. Unless it depends on the deal. Like if you have something that you print or you broker and you make a really, really good profit off of it, then maybe it's a good idea to include. But as I've mentioned in the past, there's a lot of local printers. I have a 15% deal with them. To me, 15% is not really enough to barter with something. So I'll barter my services. Yeah, I'll design that brochure for you in exchange for something else. But you have to pay for the printing costs. So that way, I don't have to actually pay any money in the deal. It's just my time. So you've got to weigh that. If there's any sort of money being put out, you have to weigh that option and whether or not it's worth including it in the deal or not. Now, one final thing before I finish off this topic is you will get clients that will ask you to either give them something for free or to give them a discount if you put your name on it. If somebody's doing a booklet for some event and there's ads in the booklet and they'll say, you know what, we'll give you a free quarter-page ad or a free half-page ad if you do this design for free or if you give us a discount. Technically, I know this is bartering, but in my experience, this is not the type of bartering you want to do because the perceived value is not there. They might be getting a really good perceived value. All they have to do is throw your ad in one spot in the brochure. And they save a bunch of money if not getting the design for free. But the value you get in return is really not worth it. Your ad in that magazine is not worth the amount of time it'll take you to put that magazine or brochure or whatever it is together. You will never get the return on that investment. So that is a barter that I always turn down. Now, just another note on putting your name on stuff. I know from, and I've always done this, ever since I was in business, I have tried to put my name on absolutely everything. Every website I design has at the bottom that it was designed by me. And every print piece, other than a business card, of course, I won't put my name on somebody's business card, but every other piece that I designed for somebody, I always have, it could be very small. Sometimes it's like little 5-6 point type. I will have designed by Marksman Design, which is my company name. And if it's a big thing like a poster or some fold out map or something, I will actually include my logo and I'll just put it, inconspicuously in a bottom corner somewhere. And I don't even tell the client. If the client sees it during the proofing stage and they make a comment like, do we get a discount because your name's on here? I'll just tell them, no, you do not. I just put that on there because, I'm proud of the work and I want to show off the work in my portfolio. So I put my name on it. And if they say that's great, I leave it there. And if the client says, well, if you're not going to pay us or if we don't get a discount, we don't want that on there, I will gladly remove it. But I never ask permission to put my name on something. I always put my name on it and then I will remove it if they tell me I don't have permission. And I've put my name on more things than I can count. And to be honest, most clients don't mind at all. As long as you don't make it stand out very much. Like on a 3-fold brochure, I'll put it on the back panel, and sometimes I'll even put it right where the fold is. I'll move it, instead of horizontally, I'll put it vertically right next to the crease, and just very inconspicuous so that it's there if somebody wants to look at it, but it doesn't look like it's part of the rest of the brochure. And I've gotten business out of that before. So it's a really good idea to put your name on things. If there's an event that's going to happen, like maybe some festival or that in your area, and you design the poster, put at the bottom, designed by, and your company name. And you never know. Maybe somebody else that is thinking of putting up a festival or starting a festival will look at that poster and go, wow, I really like that poster. And they'll look at the bottom and go, oh, it was designed by so-and-so. I should contact them. So try as much as possible to put your name on everything you do. And that is not bartering. That's just part of your design service. You put your name on things, whether it's a website, a brochure, a postcard, a booklet. As I said, I put my name on everything except for a business card because it would be kind of stupid to put my name on somebody else's business card. So that's just a little bonus content for you. It does pay off. And again, if the client doesn't want it, they will tell you to remove it. And then you just do. No big deal. So I would love to know if you've done any bartering with your graphic design services in the past. Please visit the show notes at resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 47 and leave a comment there on the page and just let me know what sort of deals have you got. Did you swing something really juicy? I would love to hear it. And now it's time for this week's question of the week. And this week's question comes in from Tyler. It says, I live in an area that has a deeply rooted DIY, do-it-yourself mentality. As a result, I'm struggling to sell local businesses on the value of my marketing and design abilities. Do you have any recommendations to break businesses out of this mentality and show them the value of professional services? Well, Tyler, no matter where you are, you're always going to run into businesses that have this mentality where it's my business, I can do it myself. Whenever I go into somebody, and I don't do a lot of selling, most days now, it's to the point where people are contacting me, so I'm not trying to sell too many people. But whenever I would go in and I wouldn't try to sell my services. I would go in and sell my partnership. I would go in and tell them, listen, I'm here not just to do a design, do a logo, do a brochure, do a website for you. I'm here to help you grow your business. And if that requires a new logo, if that requires a website, if that requires a brochure, then so be it. But my goal here is to help you grow your business. I want to be your strategic partner. I'm not talking a monetary partner. I don't want to own part of your business, but I want to partner with you to help you grow your business. And that mentality really won me a lot of clients over the years. Because when you start talking about helping them to grow their business and not just, here, I want to design something for you. Because when you go in with that as your selling feature, that I'm going to design you a brand new website, I'm going to design you a brochure, you're talking about you. I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to do this for you. Where it's, yes, you're telling them what you can do for them, but it's still mostly about you. I'm going to design, I'm going to do this. Where if you go in and you say, let's be partners about this, your business could really use a new brochure. Or have you thought about rebranding, updating your logo? Your logo is very dated. Maybe we can do something a little bit different. It doesn't have to change completely, but maybe just something so that people will notice it and it'll be fresh in mind for them. So that sort of thing really, really helped me. Now, the other thing that also helped is if you could somehow explain to the person you're talking to that they don't see their business, you're bringing a new view to their business that they're not seeing, then that is golden. If you can explain to them that they're like a horse with blinders on, those little leather pieces that they put on a horse so that they can't see sideways, they only see front and back, or not back, they only see in front of them. Some business owners are like that. They have blinders on. They know the path they're on for their business, but they don't see everything else around them. There's nothing wrong with that path. A horse has to follow that path to get to its destination. And that's what the business owner might be thinking is, I'm on the right path to reach my destination. So I don't have to worry about this other stuff. But in the meantime, the horse might be missing all sorts of opportunity around them. Maybe the horse is walking and it's really thirsty and it's going to pass right by a horse trough or a water trough and not even realize it. Or maybe there's a danger coming from the side and with the blinders, the horse doesn't notice it. I've used the horse metaphor in the past, believe it or not. But that's kind of the idea you should be giving these people, is that they are so ingrained in their business. They spend their time in their business, not just 9 to 5. It's their business. They're thinking about it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And because of that, they might have blinders on to what is perceived on the outside. And that's where you could come in and help them. You are the outside person. You don't know their product like they do. You don't know their services like they do. And that is a huge, huge benefit, because you come in and you say, listen, I am like your target audience. I can think in their mentality and offer you suggestions on how to improve things so that you can get even more. I remember when I was doing a job for it was like a day spa. They had everything from manicures to facials to massages to haircuts. And it was a day spa, and for everybody, but it was mostly for women. The owner contacted me and says, listen, I need a new page on the website. We're offering this new service. It was something about wrinkle. I forget the exact microderm something. Sorry, I'm not into this sort of thing, but it was a new machine they had just got that helps remove wrinkles from skin. It's to do with light, and they put it over the skin, and over a period of time, so many treatments, it would actually help remove or reduce wrinkles on your skin. And the owner says, here's all the information I want you to put on the page. And it was all the information about how this new machine they got was using this color laser, and it was built to use less power than the other machines. And I started reading through this, and I was thinking, if I was somebody that had wrinkles and I was looking for something, I couldn't care less about any of this information that she wants me to put on the website. So I sat down with her, and I made a special meeting. Instead of calling her up, I actually went down and I sat down with her, and I told her, I says, you're killing your business right now. This will not attract people. And she says, well, yeah, says, look at all this amazing features. I says, they're features for you. The fact that the handle on this unit is ergonomically designed so that it fits really nice in the palm of your hand doesn't make a difference to the person who's sitting in the chair trying to get their wrinkles taken care of. It only matters to you, and maybe to other people that are in the business, in the industry, and might go, oh, wow, I'm so jealous. That person has that machine, and I'm stuck with the old model that doesn't have the ergonomic handle. So I had to explain to her that and saying, from your client's point of view, here's the information you really want on this page, is what it can do to your skin. How many treatments will it take? This machine is a new generation, so instead of getting the results in 12 treatments, now it only requires 6 or 8 treatments. So that's beneficial to your clients. They don't have to do as many treatments to get the same results. Maybe this machine uses a different temperature, so where an old machine would be uncomfortable as they were doing it because the light or whatever was really hot, this machine uses a different wavelength of light so that the treatments don't hurt as much. That's something that benefits the client. So I can go on and on. This one client, I had a whole list of things, and we changed stuff, and it did help. So that's the sort of thing, Tyler, that when you're going to talk to a client, whether you're sitting down or you're sending them an email or talking on the phone or whatever, explain to them that you bring a whole new perspective to their business that they can't see because they are so ingrained in their business. They can't see what the client and what the outside people see. So you bring that to them, and through that vision, along with theirs, being a partner with them, there's only good things that can happen from that. And one more thing you can discuss with them, Tyler, is a lot of people have a do-it-yourself mentality, but you have to remind them that just because they can do it themselves doesn't mean they should be doing it themselves. You can remind them that maybe you can design your own website, but it might take you 10 hours to do something that I can do in 2 hours. What can you do in your business in 10 hours that would benefit you more than working on a website? Remind them that they have the skills and the expertise to do what they specialize in, whatever their business is. If they are an engineer and they are creating a product, or if they are offering a service, those are their expertise. That's what they specialize in. They don't specialize in this other stuff. They don't specialize in website design. They don't specialize in logo design. They don't specialize in SEO and online marketing. And you remind them that their time is valuable. And instead of wasting your time on this stuff that takes you a lot of time to figure out and to learn and to implement, you could be spending that time devoting it back to your business, and you would get a much higher rate of return on that. And then allow somebody like you, Tyler, to do the work that they shouldn't be doing, because that's what you are an expert in. And together, again, the whole partnership thing, when you create that relationship, that partnership, together, the business will grow. And of course, Tyler, not everybody is going to agree to that. Some people are just very stubborn and want to do it all themselves. They figured, I'd much rather spend 10 hours doing it myself instead of paying somebody for 1 hour to do it, even if they're going to do a better job. Some people, no matter how much you try to convince them, there's just no winning. So I hope that answered your question, Tyler. Please let me know. I'd love for you to drop me a line and tell me if I hit the mark or if I was completely out there. And if you have an answer to give Tyler, other than my own, please visit the show notes page at resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 47 and leave a comment there. And if you're part of the Facebook group, we can always continue this conversation in the Facebook group as well. So in the next episode of Resourceful Designer, I'm going to be discussing things you should think about and do before you start your home-based business. Now, before I sign off, I want to remind you once again of this week's resource, which is ScreenFlow, a wonderful way to capture videos of your screen and share it with your client so that you can show them once and not worry about it again. If they have the same question again a year later, you can say, please refer back to the video. It's all in there. As I mentioned before in the podcast, I use this all the time. And once I started using this, I stopped getting those annoying phone calls and emails with people saying, Mark, I forgot how to do this, or how do you do this part again? Those type of queries have virtually disappeared, and I love it. So if ScreenFlow is something you're interested in, please visit resourcefuldesigner.com/ScreenFlow. So that's it for this episode of Resourceful Designer. I want to thank you once again for subscribing to the podcast. I am so grateful that you join me week after week as I dive into all the little corners and crevices and aspects of running a home-based graphic design business. Until next time, I am Mark Decote, wishing you all the best in your graphic design business, and as always, reminding you to stay creative.
Thanks for listening to the Resourceful Designer Podcast at resourcefuldesigner.com.